summer heat, and a bright red bracelet. Billy stuffed a faded blue towel into his superhero backpack, nearly bursting the zipper. Goggles followed, then a tube of sunscreen that smelled faintly of coconuts and summer. He bounced on the balls of his feet, practically vibrating with anticipation. Today was a pool day, a sacred event in the sweltering July heat. Bracelet, Billy, his mom, Sarah, reminded him from the kitchen. She didn't even need to look up from stirring her coffee. Can't forget that. Billy groaned, but he knew better than to argue. He rummaged in his dresser drawer, past mismatched socks and crumpled comic books, until he found it. The bright red medical alert bracelet felt warm against his skin as he fastened it around his wrist. He made a face. It wasn't exactly cool, but Mom was right. He needed it. Got it, he called out, already halfway to the door. The neighborhood pool was a shimmering oasis, a chaotic symphony of splashing, shouting, and the rhythmic thump of a lifeguard's whistle. Billy scanned the scene, a sea of sun-bronzed limbs and brightly colored inflatable toys. He spotted his friends, Mikey and Leo, near the shallow end, already soaked and engaged in a fierce game of Marco Polo. He took a deep breath, the chlorine scent stinging his nostrils in a strangely pleasant way. Paradise. He just needed to find a place to stash his backpack and dive in. He glanced at his bright red bracelet, a tiny flicker of annoyance crossing his face, then shrugged it off. Today was about sun, water, and maybe even convincing Mikey to try that new cannonball he'd been practicing. The watchful eye of the HOA. Bernie Crabtree, president and self-appointed guardian of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association, perched on her usual wicker throne, a strategically placed chaise lounge that offered an unobstructed view of the community pool. The chlorine scent hung heavy in the air, mingling with the faint aroma of Bernie's lemon-scented sunscreen. She adjusted her oversized sunglasses, the lenses reflecting the shimmering turquoise water. Her lips, perpetually pursed, tightened further as she scanned the scene. Children shrieked, oblivious to the sacred rules etched in the HOA handbook. From her vantage point, she cataloged each potential infraction. A slightly deflated unicorn flow tie? Borderline. Mrs. Henderson's slightly too revealing swimsuit? A definite note for the next meeting. But then her gaze snagged on something that made her prune-like face contort with genuine displeasure. Billy Thompson. That rambunctious boy. He was splashing near the shallow end, a silver bracelet glinting on his wrist. Bernie knew that bracelet. It was the same kind that old Mrs. Abernathy wore, the one she kept trying to sneak into the clubhouse during bingo night, claiming it was a medical necessity. No jewelry allowed in the pool. Rule number 7, clearly stated in bold print. Bernie's fingers drummed on the armrest. This could not stand. Rules were rules. She patted the small, regulation-sized notepad in her pool bag, ready to record yet another violation. The wheels of justice, slow but inevitable, were about to turn in Willow Creek. A rule is a rule. Bernice's sensible shoes squeaked on the wet concrete as she marched towards Billy, her lips pressed into a thin, disapproving line. He was splashing happily at the shallow end, Sarah hovering nearby, a novel open in her lap. Billy, Bernice's voice cut through the cheerful din of the pool. That bracelet. Take it off. Billy's grin faltered. He looked at Sarah, confused. Sarah sighed, placing a bookmark in her novel. Bernice, we talked about this. It's a medical alert bracelet. He needs to wear it. The chlorine tang of the pool seemed to intensify as tension tightened the air. Bernice planted her hands on her hips, her floral swimsuit straining at the seams. A rule is a rule, Sarah. No jewelry in the pool. It's clearly stated in the bylaws. I won't have exceptions. What if it comes off and gets sucked into the filter? She shuddered dramatically. It's not just jewelry, Bernice, Sarah said, her voice hardening. It has his allergies and medical conditions engraved on it. If something happens, we'll call 911. That's what we always do, Bernice snapped, her gaze fixed on the thin silver band encircling Billy's wrist. Now, are you going to remove it, or am I going to have to get Mr. Henderson? Billy's lower lip trembled. He reached for the bracelet, his small fingers fumbling with the clasp. The playful squeals of the other children faded into a dull roar in Sarah's ears. This wasn't about the rule. It was about control. Escalation at the pool. Bernice, please, Sarah hissed, the edges of her voice fraying. It's not just a bracelet. It's a medical alert. Leo needs it. Bernice stood her ground, arms crossed, the plastic pool bracelet digging into her wrist. Rules are rules, Sarah. No excessive jewelry. I'm just enforcing them. A few heads turned. The splash of children playing seemed to quiet down, replaced by a low hum of curiosity. A woman with a sun hat and oversized sunglasses adjusted her towel, eyes darting between them. Excessive. Sarah's voice cracked. He'll go into anaphylactic shock if he eats the wrong thing. Is that excessive enough for you? She reached for Bernice's wrist, but Bernice yanked it away. Don't touch me, she snapped, her voice rising. I'm not responsible for your child's condition. You should be watching him more closely. Now, several families were openly watching. A father with a baby carrier shifted uncomfortably. A teenage girl pretended to read a magazine, but her eyes were glued to the unfolding drama. The chlorine scent of the pool seemed to thicken, heavy with the weight of the argument. Sarah's eyes welled up. Bernice, please just give it back. I'll even write a note, get a doctor's signature, anything. Bernice smirked, a cruel, tight-lipped expression. Anything, huh? Maybe you should have thought of that before you broke the rules. She held the bracelet aloft, the flimsy plastic glinting in the harsh sunlight. The tension around the pool was a tangible thing, crackling in the air like static electricity. A hand on Billy's wrist. Bernice, please don't, Sarah's voice cracked, a threadbare plea in the humid air. The chlorine smell, usually a comforting marker of summer, now clawed at her throat. Bernice, however, was a steamroller clad in floral print. She'd planted her feet, the fleshy pads of her sandals splayed on the cracked concrete, and her gaze remained fixed on Billy's wrist. He doesn't need it. It's an eyesore. Makes the whole pool area look institutional. Billy, sensing the shift in the atmosphere, shrunk back against Sarah's legs. His thumb worried the faded image of Lightning McQueen on his t-shirt. He didn't understand the words, but he understood the tone, the tightening around Bernice's mouth. Bernice leaned forward, her breath a stale mix of spearmint gum and something vaguely metallic. Her fingers, thick and adorned with a gaudy turquoise ring, reached for Billy's wrist. Mom, stop it. Sarah's voice rose an octave, but Bernice was deaf to anything but her own righteous indignation. Billy, startled, yelped and tried to jerk his arm away. The plastic of the medical alert bracelet, usually unnoticed, now felt like a brand. He twisted, pulling against Bernice's grip, his small face crumpling. The turquoise ring glinted under the harsh afternoon sun as Bernice's nails dug into his skin, a flash of red blooming on his pale wrist. Badge of authority. Hold it right there. The words sliced through the humid air, sharper than Sarah intended, but effective. Bernice's hand, lobster red from the sun, hovered inches from Leo's wrist. Her painted nails, the shade of overripe cherries, looked menacingly close to the medical alert bracelet. Bernice's thin lips pursed. Excuse me? Are you talking to me? Sarah stepped closer, planting herself between Bernice and Leo. The chlorine scent of the pool intensified, stinging her nostrils. Yes, I am. Before you do something you'll regret, I need to inform you that I am a water rescue police officer. And you are about to tamper with a legally protected medical device. She pulled out her badge, the polished metal glinting in the harsh sunlight. Bernice blinked, the confidence momentarily draining from her face, leaving behind a flicker of uncertainty. Police? For a bracelet. This isn't just a bracelet, Sarah explained, keeping her voice level. It's a medical alert device, and it's protected under federal law. Removing or damaging it can have serious legal consequences, especially if it endangers the individual wearing it. She pointed to the small medical insignia on the bracelet. He needs this. Understand. Turning tides. Bernice's meticulously lacquered lips pursed into a prune. What did you just say? She screeched, the sound bouncing off the turquoise tiles of the pool. Sarah stood straighter, her shoulders squared. He has a heart condition, Bernice. That bracelet alerts first responders. You ripped it off my son. A collective gasp rippled through the small crowd that had gathered. Whispers, hushed and angry, began to circulate. Well, why didn't you say so? Bernice sputtered, her face flushing an unbecoming shade of purple. It just looked like jewelry. Like jewelry that says medical alert, supraventricular tachycardia? Mark Peterson, whose daughter was in Lily's Girl Scout troop, stepped forward. Come on, Bernice. You can't be serious. Another parent, Emily Rodriguez, chimed in, her voice laced with steel. My niece has a similar condition. That bracelet could save his life. What you did was reckless, Bernice. And cruel. Bernice's eyes darted around, the support she usually commanded absent. The pool deck, moments ago her domain, now felt like a trap. The humid air hung thick with disapproval. Even the rhythmic splash of the pool seemed to mock her. The smiles were gone, replaced by glares. Her perfectly coiffed hair seemed to droop, her designer sunglasses suddenly too heavy. The tide had turned. Apologies and clarifications. Bernice wrung her hands, the chlorine clinging to her wrinkled skin like a bad perfume. Sarah, I owe you an apology. I was zealous. Overzealous, perhaps. She wouldn't quite meet Sarah's eyes, focusing instead on a loose thread dangling from her floral cover-up. I just want what's best for the community, and those things, they can be dangerous. Sarah crossed her arms. An apology is appreciated, Bernice, but understanding is more important. Daniel wears that bracelet for a reason. It's not a fashion statement. Bernice flinched. I realize that now. I saw him struggling and I panicked. And I thought it was a toy. A choking hazard. Before Sarah could respond, a harried-looking man in a faded polo shirt approached. Mrs. Davison? I understand there's been a misunderstanding regarding the pool rules. He shifted his weight nervously. I'm terribly sorry, but it seems like the policy hasn't been fully communicated. Medical alert bracelets are, of course, permitted. Absolutely essential, in fact. We encourage them. He pulled a wrinkled sheet of paper from his pocket. It's right here, under Section 3, Subsection B, Paragraph 2. Medical identification devices are exempt from the jewelry prohibition. He cleared his throat. My sincere apologies for any distress caused. The chlorine smell seemed to intensify, a sharp, stinging reminder of the afternoon's humiliation. A peaceful swim. Billy plunged back into the shimmering water, the chlorine tang a welcome change from the tension that had gripped him moments before. He surfaced, slicking back his hair, a genuine smile finally breaking through. He swam laps, the rhythmic splash and pull a soothing balm. The bracelet, a constant, reassuring presence on his wrist, glinted in the sunlight with each stroke. He felt lighter, not just physically, but emotionally too. The pool, once a source of anxiety, now felt like a refuge. Bernice, meanwhile, gathered her things with jerky, deliberate movements. She avoided eye contact with everyone, especially Sarah. The vibrant colors of her floral swimsuit seemed garish now, a stark contrast to the shame that colored her cheeks. She mumbled something indistinguishable to the lifeguard, a young man who probably hadn't even registered the earlier confrontation, and hurried towards the changing rooms, her large tote bag bumping awkwardly against her hip. Sarah settled onto a lounger, her gaze fixed on Billy. The way he moved through the water, confident and strong, filled her with a fierce pride. She saw other children splashing and playing, oblivious to the drama that had unfolded, and a wave of protectiveness washed over her. This was his space too, his summer, and she wouldn't let anyone, especially not Bernice, steal that from him. The sun warmed her skin, but it was the sight of Billy, finally at peace, that truly warmed her heart.